Alrighty, hello everybody. So this is going to be a relatively short video. I need to correct something. In one of my previous videos, I was talking about, excuse me, doing a manual J calculation for a structure that was a two-story house. It was from that website that showed plans online, and I did something incorrect there. So I'd like to correct that here. So let's do this quickly. So I'm going to open up my Wrightsoft Write Suite. Went over here to Write Draw to pull up this drawing page. I'm going to grab the room. Okay. Now I'm going to do this with. It really doesn't matter how many rooms we have, just for the sake of making this look somewhat realistic. I'll put a couple rooms. All right. Yeah, let's put a couple rooms. Even though really it could be done with one room. Now, here's what we're going to do. So this is the first floor. Right click over here by sheet. Select edit sheet. Okay. Now, you don't strictly need to do this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to label this as first floor. Okay. Now I'm going to right click again, and I'm going to, oops, no, not edit sheet. I'm going to add a sheet. We're going to call this second floor. Okay. Now I need to change the elevation, meaning the second floor is what, 9 feet, 10 feet above the first floor, right? Okay. All right. So now I'm going to uncheck the second floor. So actually, you know what? No. Let's check the second floor, uncheck the first floor. So now you see there's nothing there. Okay, and I'm going to start drawing some basic rooms for the second floor. Okay, again, the particular shape and arrangement of the rooms really does not matter at all. You'll see why in a minute. But the specific thing that I'm trying to address here is how to use this software to account for multiple floors. Okay, let's compare the second floor against the first floor. We see that they are completely misaligned. So let's just fix that. We don't want them to be so grossly misaligned. That's obviously not correct. So let's fix that. And there we go. Okay, technically all of this is entirely possible. There could be some kind of overhang or balcony situation, whatever it is. This is good enough. Okay. Now, here's what we're going to do. So uncheck, excuse me, uncheck second floor. Now, I'm only going to do it for one of them, okay? Because if you've watched my previous videos, then you know what to do. But I suppose for the people who haven't watched the previous ones, I'll do it for them. Okay, so watch this. So select one of the rooms, right click, which pulls up the property sheet window, pop-up window. Okay, so including calculations, yes. Now here's what I want to get to. So now this is the first floor, which means that there's a second floor above. By the way, there could be a basement beneath. In this situation, we're going to say that there's no basement beneath. So let's define that first. We're going to say the floor is, let's say, I don't know, here in Arizona, it's really common to have a floor it's called slab on grade, okay? So here we're defining our concrete. There's no insulation. It's pretty common, okay? And that's not the main part of the video. Here is the main part of the video. Head over to the tab for ceiling in the drop down here, okay? Now, sorry, hold on. Let me do something for a second. Yeah, so uncheck that. Okay. Right click for ceiling type. Okay. Now, so we've got these different options for the type of roof / ceiling. Okay. Here's the one we want. We want ceiling partition. Okay. This means that it's like an interior ceiling above your head, where what's above is not the attic, but instead it's another floor. Okay. And this is important because the second floor is a conditioned space, and so is the first floor. Again, I'm not talking about the second floor where the second floor is an attic. No, I'm distinguishing between a second floor versus an attic. Okay, so if you have a home that has a first floor and a second floor, a proper second floor, okay, the second floor is a conditioned space. So you're not concerned about heat transfer between the second floor and the first floor, okay? Whereas, okay, let's say a home has one floor, or whatever is the top floor of a home, you are absolutely concerned about the heat transfer between the attic and that floor, or the surrounding air, the environment outside of the home and that floor, in the same way that you're concerned with the heat transfer between the outside air and the inside of your home. Okay? Again, what we're doing here in Manual J is basically it's all about heat transfer. Okay? So I've said this in my previous videos, but maybe you haven't watched them. Heat goes from hot to cold. That's always how it goes. So in the summertime, that hot air outside is trying to get into your relatively cooler air inside your home. And in the winter, it's the opposite. The warm air inside your home is trying to get out to the cold air outside. And so that's why we need to insulate against it. So that's true for the walls. It's true for the windows. Okay. It's true for the floor. It's also true for the ceiling or roof that you have. Okay. But when a house has two floors, they are both considered to be conditioned space. That means that there's some kind of air conditioning system to cool or warm the home. Okay, so we're not concerned with the heat transfer between the second floor and the first floor because it's pretty much all the same temperature. Yes, obviously, in reality, there's going to be a couple degrees difference, especially in a home where they should be on different zones. The first floor and the second floor are on a different zone. And so it's typical that in the summertime, the second floor will end up being a little bit hotter than the first floor, and the opposite true as well in the wintertime, right? But that's not the kind of nuance that I'm getting into here, right? From the perspective of Manual J and other load calculation, right? They're both both floors are considered to be conditioned air, and therefore we're not concerned with the heat transfer from one floor to the other. All right, my apologies. I had to do some homework to make sure Wrightdraw was doing what I thought. And all right, it is. So let's start again. Okay, we're just going to do one large room. Here we go. All right. Now, that's our first floor. We're going to check the box for second floor. Yeah, draw the second floor. The second floor should be overlapping the first floor. There could be some kind of overhang or whatever it is, but let's just have them perfectly overlapping, okay? Now, hold on. Now, we are going to say that, well, that's interesting, you don't have to do it like that, but anyway, okay. So one way to handle it would be to call it a ceiling partition, right? Again, my whole explanation as before, we're not concerned with the heat transfer from one floor to the other, okay? So watch what happens. Automatically, the ceiling area is calculated as 0 because the program is understanding that, hey, you've got a second floor, okay? Therefore, I don't need to calculate the ceiling load or ceiling loss because there is no loss through the ceiling of the first floor. Whereas, let's check out the second floor. If we right click, we can see that sure enough, it does have an area associated with it, okay? And here, absolutely, it is important to define the properties. Just to give you an example, let's just give it a flat roof. It's a little easier to work with. Okay. Let's give it this. Okay, we have a R30 ceiling insulation, no deck, membrane wood frame. Okay, pretty standard. All right. So let's close this window. Let's open up the worksheet. Okay. And we are looking at, okay, room 18. That's the one on the second floor. So let's head over here. We're going to move over to room 18. And we see that this room has a ceiling load of 6,101. Okay. And if we go to the first floor, which is room 17, okay, you can see that it just turns the area to 0 and the load is 0. Again, because we're not concerned about the load from one ceiling to the next. All right, so I hope this was useful. Just to recap, I had previously done in one of my videos something incorrect regarding how to deal with first floor and second floor. I should have done it this way, which is let's just do it real quick. All right, let's delete this sheet. Okay, removing this sheet. Yes, let's delete it. All right, so that when you start up your Wrightsoft software, this is what you get. And typically it's just called, by default, it'll be called sheet 1. Okay, so let's say you're starting from new and you know that you're going to have multiple floors. First thing you do, right click, edit sheet, give it a name, call it first floor. Or maybe it's basement, by the way. Okay, maybe it's a basement. That also could be true. Then you're going to add a sheet. We'll call this second floor. Okay, what height is it? Well, let's say 10 feet off the ground, or 10 feet relative to the first floor, right? Not off the ground, but relative to the floor beneath it, okay? All right, now uncheck that one, uncheck for second floor. Let's just draw, the rooms that you have, okay? Oh, actually, let's do some kind of interesting design, like a split level home, maybe where the second floor doesn't completely cover the first floor. Let's do that. Let's do something like this, and then leave it like that. All right, so now let's check the box, see both of them. Let's move it over. No, wrong one. I meant to grab this one. All right, let's do that. And let's do that. Maybe, some kind of interesting home. We actually had something kind of like that in the previous video, okay? So now let's see what it looks like. It's going to be very interesting, okay? Head over here to the worksheet. You can see that what? So it's telling you that the area is 140. Let's do something real quick. If we take the dimension tool over here, okay, we can see that this room on the first floor is actually 14 by 42. So if we do 14 times 42 feet, that's 588 square feet. But if we look over here, we see that what? This room was assigned 140 square feet because, like I said before, it understands that there's a room above, therefore it's only calculating, it's going to ignore all of this where there's a second floor above it, and it's only going to use this. So sure enough, 10 times 14 is 140. What do we have here? 140. Perfect. All right. Now, by that logic, it should be doing the same thing for the floor, right? So if we look at room 22, which is the room for the second floor, okay, we should see the floor load being 0. So room 22, here we go. Floor load, there you go. Boom. Floor load is 0. 0 area associated with this room. Let's double check that, right? Because all of the floor of room 22 is the ceiling of room 19, okay? Because room 19 is larger than room 22. All right. I hope that's helpful. I do apologize for pausing the video and sort of restarting it. Please leave a comment if there's something you want me to change or if you want me to redo this video. All right, be well, and we'll see you in the next video.